Hey guys, Troy Francis here for the Audacity Network. So I did a tweet earlier and it's been getting a bit of traction, so I thought I would record a video discussing it. I wrote, the modern dating problem would be entirely solved if, number one, women stopped being so entitled and narcissistic, and number two, men stopped being such pathetic simps. Look, that is obviously breaking it down in quite a crude, rudimentary manner. But to be honest, is that the solution? Would it be solved if those things were eradicated? I think it probably would. I mean, it seems to me. And look, again, I've said in the previous video, I've been around the block. I'm in my late 40s. I'm nearly hitting the big 50, guys. It's got to that point, I'm afraid. I've been a degenerate bachelor for all of my life, really, and what that has meant is I've been able to observe a lot of stuff because I've been dating all my life, really. I mean, obviously some long-term relationships, but I've been out there on the dating scene, and I've also in my career coached many thousands of guys all over the world in dating skills. So I've been able to observe a lot, and I've been able to observe a lot not just in the UK and the US, but in different countries as well. And so it seems like there's a couple of things that are going on here that are really causing a big problem in terms of the way that men and women interrelate. The first thing, as I say here, or as I allude to here, is just this massive inflation as far as narcissism is concerned, okay? As far as self-love, self-regard is concerned. And look, I'm sorry to my lovely female viewers, but a lot of the brunt of this has to be borne by women, because when you look at the just incredible inflation in female narcissism that has taken place over the last 10, 15, 20 years, you know, as long as basically the smartphone has been around and as long as social media has been around, it really is mind-boggling. And all you've got to do is pick up your phone and open up Instagram and scroll through some accounts, and you're just going to find account after account after account that is pictures of very attractive and sometimes less attractive, let's be honest, but pictures of attractive women not wearing very much, vying for attention on those platforms. And it seems like I think that female narcissism has always been there. I think the female desire to be desired is intrinsic. I believe that's intrinsic in humanity, and I think that's certainly intrinsic in female nature. But what has happened is that it's been put on steroids. It's basically been put on trend now by these social media platforms. And so whereas in the past, I guess, you know, a few lucky women who managed to break into showbiz or become actresses or singers or, you know, socialites or whatever were admired across the populace, these days, these women, you could be a girl from a small town in Latvia or Lithuania or Ukraine or wherever it is. You put up some cute pictures on Instagram, you put up some nice bikini shots, you know, Malia 2014 or whatever, and suddenly you're getting likes from dudes all over the planet, okay? And it's no wonder that this is fueling the narcissism. It's fueling the self-regard of these women, because I mean, how couldn't it be, right? I mean, it's as I say, it's kind of mind-boggling when you think about it, that this exists as a phenomenon. And the thing that isn't mind-boggling is the fact that women are buying into it, because I think we all have that sense of vanity. I think many of us have that sense of narcissism, but for women, it's very much intrinsically linked to the way that they look, okay? And as much as feminists will complain about objectification, it's like, oh my God, he's being objectified. I can see that argument, but also if you go to any nightclub, I mean, I used to go to some pretty risque parties actually in London, in the nightclubs, where women would, you know, wear very provocative outfits, and sometimes they would just go in like underwear, like expensive lingerie and stuff like that. And there was no doubt, observing these women, that they enjoyed being admired, not only by the guys there, I mean, mostly by the guys there, but also by the other women, you know. And women will often talk about female beauty and, oh my God, you know, female beauty is this amazing thing, blah, blah, blah. So women like to be admired. And the social media platforms, the internet, has, as I say, put this on steroid. What does that mean? Well, it means, as I say, there's this huge inflation in terms of female narcissism, female self-regard, female self-love. As I say, nothing at all surprising. Sorry, I'm just checking something. Nothing at all surprising about that. But what has that also brought with it? Well, what it's also brought is a sense of entitlement, okay? Because obviously, if you've got a bunch of people online, people who you don't know, who are looking at you, who are praising you, who are saying that you're really beautiful, giving you likes, probably sending you DMs, maybe even sending you money, because remember, a lot of these girls have Cash App now, or Venmo or whatever in their profiles, or they have an OnlyFans. And, you know, as been discussed many times, the vast majority of people with OnlyFans accounts are women. I think it's something about 78%. The most money that is made made on OnlyFans is made by women, certainly not by men. So basically, young women are getting paid. They're literally getting paid. They're getting admired, but they're also getting paid money just for being hot. You know, I mean, it really is incredible that this has now become this industry. And so on the one hand, you've got that, and this is obviously having this huge effect in terms of women's expectations in the dating market itself. This has been discussed frequently in the manosphere, in the red pill. But to bring you up to speed, basically what's happening is that this mythical girl who lives in Latvia or a small village in Scotland or in Lithuania, Russia, wherever it is, she posts up these bikini shots on her Instagram account. She's getting these DMs. She's getting this attention from all of these guys, often very, what you might call high value men. You know, guys with money, guys with resources, guys with status perhaps. Not always, but you know, I'm sure some of those individuals are slipping through. Maybe people with blue check marks, things like this. She's suddenly getting all this attention that she would never have had access to. She would never have received 15, 20 years ago because it just wouldn't have been possible. She just wouldn't have come into contact with those people. And now she is because of the internet, because of online. With the very best will in the world, that is going to change the way that she operates in the real world. Now, often people will say, okay, so there are girls who are, you know, she's a working class girl, she's living in a small town, she's working in a cafe, and guys are offering to fly her out to Dubai. And the counter argument to that is, okay, but how often is that actually happening? And I think it was on an episode of Fresh and Fit earlier this year, Destiny, the Blue-Haired Avenger, Destiny took Fresh, I think, to task about this and said, well, okay, so how often is this actually happening? And Fresh said something like, 50% of the time. And it became a bit of a joke because clearly it's not happening that much. It's not actually happening to that degree, in all likelihood. However, that doesn't really matter. That doesn't affect this fundamental issue of inflation of expectations. And the reason is because even if the majority of these women aren't taking up any offers that they're receiving to get flown out, to be taken abroad, you know, to be taken on to the yacht party or whatever, even if a lot of these women are either rejecting those offers or they are just ignoring the DMs or they're not even responding to the DMs or whatever, the very fact that this is happening at all is, as I say, necessarily going to change that woman's view of herself and of her marketability in terms of sex, in terms of relationships, right? It's a no-brainer, right, that this is happening. If you are a normal person, an ordinary person, and you're getting sent messages frequently telling you how great you are, telling you how beautiful you are, how hot you are, how much money these dudes would like to spend, the things they would like to do, the amazing events they'd like to take her to, the lifestyle they'd like to give her, even if she's a super pure, innocent woman and she chooses not to do any of that stuff, it's going to change how she feels about herself. It is going to add to her own sense of self-regard. Okay, and so what does that mean on the ground? Well, what it means on the ground is that perhaps the ordinary guy who's working the local, you know, garage or the local laundrette or public house or whatever, pub, that ordinary guy, whereas 15, 20 years ago, he may have had a really good chance in terms of meeting that woman and getting into a relationship with her, becoming intimate with her, whatever. Now, there's a much greater likelihood that she's going to be looking at that dude and she's going to be like, I just, you know, I'm not really feeling it. I mean, this guy doesn't have anything about him in comparison to these other guys who are liking me on social media, who are slipping into my DMs, who are, you know, swiping on me on Tinder or whatever it is. So as I say, the actual reality of whether she's taking up those guys on those opportunities is almost irrelevant. The very fact that this is happening is changing the dating marketplace on the ground. Okay, so that's one side of it. There's the narcissism and there is the sense of entitlement that women have. Because remember, just because a guy, say he's a rich dude, he lives in Dubai, he's got an amazing lifestyle, he says to the girl, hey, listen, I want to fly you out, come to the party, it's going to be amazing, I'll put you up in a, you know, 7-star hotel for the weekend, it's going to be fantastic. Just because he says that doesn't mean that he would commit to her necessarily, okay? He may just want to have sex with her. And we're going to get into this in future videos, right? Because men of extreme high value and extreme high net worth are probably not faithful guys. Okay, so let's just put a pin in that and leave that one there. But so she's getting these messages. She's thinking, oh, I've got this amazing worth because I've got all these guys who want to do these things for me. But when the rubber hits the road, would that guy actually take things any further than getting her over, smashing, having a nice weekend together, and then that's it? Okay, so that's one thing. So these women are, as I say, the entitlement, the narcissism is growing. However, on the other side, what we're seeing with men is an epidemic of simpiness, okay? An epidemic of men simping for women, and certainly simping for women online. Now, this is something that game or pickup artistry or whatever you want to call it really has always sought to address, because if there's a number one rule of seduction or game or dating advice for men or whatever, that number one rule must surely be that you do not put the woman on a pedestal above you. Okay, if anything, it should be the other way around. If anything, it should be about flipping the script. You know, the guy should be walking into that interaction with the woman, and even if she's a hot model, you know, even if she's like some social media influencer, she's got 200,000 followers on Instagram, whatever, the guy should be assured of his own self-worth. The guy should be walking into that interaction with her like, hey, listen, you're cute, I get it, you've got some stuff going on, that's amazing, but what else is good? You know, what else is good about you? I'm a guy. I'm inherently of high value, because he should be working on himself as an individual, and he should see himself as high value, but at the same time, he should be working on, you know, his genuine value as a man. And he should go into it with that mindset, basically. So he's on the same level as her, or ideally, he's on an even higher level than her. The majority of men, I would say, have missed the memo on that. Okay, so the game stuff, the dating, the PUA advice, the game, the dating stuff, that's been out there for, you know, many years now, really. I mean, certainly, you could draw a line in the sand for about 2005 when the game by Neil Strauss came out, which talked about mystery, you know, those pickup artists in Los Angeles and the mystery method. And this is where the whole thing became sort of mainstreamed, if you like. There was obviously dating advice for men before that, but it was all a little bit under the counter and sort of seedy. 2005, it became mainstreamed to some extent, okay? And there was that TV show that Mystery did, I think it was called Keys to the VIP, where he was teaching guys to do game, etc., etc. So that advice has been put out there, okay? It's known about, and it's known about on quite a big level, but it still hasn't really permeated any sort of majority of men at all. And as I say, the result of that, what we're seeing, is in fact just this increase in terms of simping. It seems like, I mean, if you look at it, I mean, it's just incredible, isn't it? How many men must be paying for OnlyFans? If you look at just the amounts of money that are being made by OnlyFans creators, and I'm talking overall, because obviously the average OnlyFans earning is quite low. I think it's something like $150 a month or something very low. But you know, you go to the top end, you look at just how much money some of these women are making. And then you can take it even down a level. Just, again, be on Instagram. Meet girls when you go out to the party, meet girls when you go out to the club, get their Instagrams, follow them, see what they're doing in their lives. I know women myself who I'm friends with, who I've met or whatever, and I know that they are basically traveling around. They're traveling around Europe. Maybe they live in South America. They're traveling around Europe. They're summering in Europe. They're going to all these amazing places, these amazing restaurants, and it's all being paid for by dudes, okay? So, I mean, the whole sugar type thing is another conversation for another time. I'm not necessarily opposed to that, but what is problematic, I think, is guys who are just puffing up these women's egos and they're not getting anything back from that. And, you know, as Myron Gaines always says, no free attention, all right? You shouldn't be puffing up a woman's ego in the hopes of getting some action, unless there's some sort of reciprocation there, unless you're getting something back. And if you're not, then you really shouldn't be engaging with her in that way. So as I say, two problems here. Women basically have this massively increased sense of entitlement, which has been pumped up hugely by the steroid-like effect of social media. And guys, in turn, are just increasing the simping. And of course, what's happening as a result? Well, we know that women really are only interested in the top 20% of dudes anyway. And I say 20% is being generous. It could be between 5 and 10%. That top percentile of men who are basically getting all of the action, or certainly all the action, with the top tier women, and they're all kind of fighting over those dudes, okay? And the rest of the guys, they're doing all this simping, and it's fellas, it's not getting you anywhere, man. It's not getting you anywhere. The problem is, and I don't want to be the bringer of, don't shoot the messenger, I don't want to be the bringer of bad tidings here, but none of this stuff is going to get any better anytime soon, okay? The genie is out of the bottle, all right? Social media is here. It's not going anywhere, okay? If anything, it's going to just go in the other, it's going to go exponentially, okay? In a further direction that we probably can't even predict now. We probably don't even know exactly how it's going to go, because would we have predicted all of this stuff 15, 20 years ago? Probably not. So there are going to be advancements in this space that we can't even predict at the moment, but certainly it's not going to get any better, okay? So that's the bad news. But the good news is that if you're a guy, you want to be aware of this stuff, and you want to start acting on it in an appropriate manner. That is, at the very least, don't be simping to random women on the internet, okay? That's kind of rule 101, really. And women, if I can speak to the women out there, I'm not going to expect you to drop your standards. It's very hard for me to sit here and say, well, you should just take a lesser man because, you know, we're going to get into this in some further videos anyway, but you should at least be realistic. Okay, you should at least take an honest look at yourself and an honest look at the guys that you're interacting with, and just think about, okay, so these dudes that I've been interacting with, how's it really worked out with them? You know, these kind of top tier guys that you're going for, how's that really going for you? And yeah, you might be getting attention, you might be getting sex, you might be getting gifts or even money or trips or whatever, but are they hanging around? Are you still with any of these guys? Is this kind of leading to the happy ending that you probably want? And if it isn't, then, and again, I know it's very hard for anybody to say, well, right, I'm just going to randomly drop my standards then. I get it. But you need to at least look at that and be aware of what's happening out there in the market.